So this hour, we're going to be joined by three guests who will have this conversation with us. Two of them are already here. And by way of introduction, Dr. Dionysius Gigi is a theologian, lawyer, and youth leader and joins us in the Situation Room this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Thank you for being here in the Situation Room.
Thank you.
As we go into some of these things this morning, Mary Julius is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, is also here this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Do.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Sophie Njeke will join us in a bit, and we'll then be able to look into the Gen Z commemoration and then to ask questions around then, so where are we in terms of the protests on the issues, which is where it came from? And one of the things that we can ask is to never lose sight of the issues. But before that, as you know, we'd like to share today's proverb. Today's proverb is the last day of proverbs that we've been looking at that come from Kenya. And this is what it is. We'd love to get your interpretation of it for both of you. Mtaka cha mvuguni sharti ainame.
Yes.
Whoever wants something under the bed must bend down.
Correct.
You see, correct? Okay. Mary, tell us, what do you think about that?
My interpretation of that, Ndo, would be because it's a proverb we studied in primary school.
Oh, you did? Okay.
In high school. Mtaka cha mvunguni sharti ainame.
I would have said it just like that.
Yes.
Had I gone to high school here.
Or even primary school.
Or even primary school here,
Yes,
okay.
when you want something, you must work for it. There is nothing that is given to you on a silver platter.
Right.
So when you want something, you need to strategize and work on it. That is my understanding of that proverb.
Okay. Daktari?
I beg to agree, but also to differ.
Go ahead.
Because on paper, that is the reality. On ground, things are different. As a Gen Z minister, I can tell you for free that not all things that you see moving well have been worked for. Some have been cooked through back doors. So it may be more rhetoric and more theoretic, but not practical. But it should be practical anyway. Thank you.
Indeed. Well, thank you both for being here. And I'm loving that from the interpretation of that proverb from both of you, then that probably forms a mark for how we'll have this conversation this morning.
Thank you.
So the commemoration of the Gen Z protests happened yesterday. And from that, Mary, we start with you.
Yes.
Have issues been dealt with beyond the commemoration, the laying of wreaths and the remembrance of those who lost their lives in such a brutal manner?
Correct.
Beyond that commemoration, have the things been dealt with? Have they been actually put to bed?
Yes. From a legal perspective, I would say that nothing has been met. Although the government has been trying to show us that they are taking steps, for example, through the establishment or the empanelment to deal with the issues of those who are injured and those who died. But you see, for us in the legal sector, it's not about compensation, rather than what I would term as a responsibility, people taking responsibility for their actions. Because when you say you have compensated me with 3 million and I lost my son as a father, as a mother, that does not in itself equate to accountability.
Okay.
We want to see people on the dock. We want to see people imprisoned. We want to see people face justice. Yes.
When you see those things, then does it now equate to that it has been handled? If a mother is crying still today or about the death of her child who was innocent in all of this, or somebody is still saying today that my son is missing, meanwhile, Morioki's mother is still crying to date. Since June 25th, she cannot find Morioki.
Yes.
Doesn't know. The last they saw of Morioki is when he was being put in a police vehicle.
Correct.
On the 25th of June
2024. Yes.
She's still crying to date. Are we saying that if they say that they've been able to trace Morioki from point A to point B and the person last seen with him then answers in court, does it take care of that issue?
No, it doesn't. You see, when it comes to the Kenyan law under Article 25, there's what we call the writ of habeas corpus. So, for example, Ndu, if you went missing today, God forbid, if you went missing today, it is the responsibility of state officers to find you and to bring you. So when a police officer comes to court and they say that they don't know where you are, that does not equate to accountability. At the end of the day, they're supposed to find you and tell us your whereabouts.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. From your perspective, Dr. Hari, have issues been dealt with?
I am of the opinion that they have not been dealt with, because the whole agenda was to ensure that Article 55 of the Constitution is upheld by allowing the youth to access the relevant endowments that they're supposed to receive, the political, social, and economic participation, and worst of all, the harm that has been there. I think you saw a clip yesterday going viral of a gentleman who was in clutches, and the very best that he received was a thorough beating from the very people that are supposed to protect Kenyans from harm. So if you would ask me, we are not yet there, and I would put it across as a challenge. As a minister, this is not scriptural, this is not even in accordance with the laws of natural justice. So I feel we have not yet gotten there. Yet the Gen Z and the Kenyan fraternity at large was looking forward to celebrating the lives yesterday. I think we should have seen a national holiday. We should have seen the government coming in handy to provide a platform for ministers to say a prayer over these families as they get truly compensated. So we are not yet there. We are not yet there.
Well, building on what you said earlier, that you agree and also differ with an interpretation.
Yes.
That's the beauty of democracy.
Sure.
That both are true and can coexist at the same time.
Very true.
There are those who feel, no, people are just antagonistic. They don't like this president. Wanamuonea tu. You know, you call them the two-term.
Yes.
Brigade. And there are others who are very strong, who opine that no, there is a change that needs to be realized. And it has to manifest now and in our lifetime. Because the cost of it not manifesting is too high for us to continue paying.
Sure.
So both camps are advancing their agenda. And yesterday, or the build-up of yesterday, we saw a lot of that coming out. I saw a group of youth coming up to say, no, people don't need to protest, continue, carry on with life. The president is working, the government is keen to serve the Kenyans. And then on the other front, you had people are saying, no, we need to show up, we need to commemorate, we need to call for more correction of the situation. So where is the divide? Because both of the two camps are still existing in this one country, same economic situation, and all the other social factors are playing out in both camps. But the opinion or the position is different. How do you differentiate that difference?
Okay, I hope I respond correctly. First off, the presidency is supposed to be a symbol of national unity.
Right.
That is basic history that we schooled. But again, on ground, things may be different. On the other hand, it is a democratic right for every Kenyan to have an entitled opinion of whatever kind. However, if we are realistic with ourselves, this is not even about one term or two term. This is about the goodwill of the Kenyan people. So if you would ask me, it is a matter of introspection. If we were to look at Kenya on a merit of where it has come from and where she is today, then we are not in a progressive trajectory. We are in a retrogression. And therefore, my take would be, we are not focusing on a sole human being here. We are focusing on a whole nation, over 30 million people. And I was intimating yesterday, and I wish to put that across, that the population of Kenya, out of the 100%, 80% is made up of young people. Have we been factored as young people? Have the young people been enabled, to work within what is needed for them to thrive? So if you would ask me, it's not about which side we are on, it's about the delivery of services, which are not a favor. They are endowments that we are entitled to as a nation. Yes.
So, Mary, how is it you're not seeing the advance, the progress that the president has made, that your fellow youth are also saying is manifesting, is there?
Correct.
Well, how are you, not as a person, this is a proverbial question, because the two camps, some are saying this is working, it is happening, others are saying it is not. Is it a question of right or wrong? Is it a question of misconception? Is it a question of alliance, political expediency? Is it a question of just because I'm a beneficiary of this regime, I have to speak for it?
Yes.
And then I have to step away from the rationale, from the reality that people are living through as Kenyans.
Yes. I would say that politicians, in their natural nature, they are very cunning and they will always twist issues. For example, even if it was not President Ruto in power today and it was another person, they would try and push a certain narrative. They would say, it is people from this region that are trying to fight me. Or rather, it is people from this class that are trying to fight me. Remember when he came to power on what we would term as the poor versus the rich. There was the hustlers versus the dynasty. And politicians would always do that. And for them to escape what I would call accountability, they would always raise these classes and these issues. For me, I think they are failing on that. They are failing to address the issues that we are raising as the youth and as Kenyans. And they're trying to push this narrative as a way to blindfold whatever we are trying to tell them. So it's not an issue of this camp versus this camp. It's an issue of them failing and actually declining to see the issues as they are.
Wow. So then, I think that takes us to the question of, are we then ready to overlook, their theatrics of trying to divide, the greater number of the population, which is the youth.
Correct.
Are we ready to overlook their theatrics and see beyond the lies and the script and agree that, what? A good health system will be good for all of us.
Correct.
A good education system will be good for all of us.
Yes.
Subscribing to the constitutional provision is a requirement for all of us.
Yes.
And if only we did that, we're going to have a good country, whether in Marsabit, in Turkana, in Moyale, in Malindi, wherever you will be as a person. Yes. Are we able to see that and then start having a conversation like, what? Even as we continue with the revolution of building a better nation,
yes,
our convergence should be around ideas.
Correct.
Not tribal balkanization, not faith-based division.
Correct.
Or any other subdivision they try to have us subscribe to. Are we ready, as the young people, you said, they're the majority, to now start converging around ideas of the new country that we want to give birth to?
Well, that's a very nice one. Yes, we are ready. Because the change that we want to see will not come with the Gen Alphas. We, as the millennials and the Gen Zs, are to do this. Allow me to articulate this from the perspective of the church.
Right.
The church holds a highly and unique influential space in the public life. However, we have a creeping culture of political patronage. So if you would ask me with all honesty, for the church to regain its prophetic voice, we need to protect the pulpit, to delink it from political patronage. Why? Because if you read the gospel as recorded in Matthew chapter 21, verse 12 to 13, Jesus went into the temple, he swept the whole place, he drove out folks because the business that they were carrying out there was not in accordance with the scripture. There is nowhere in scripture, and this one I say without fear of doubt or contradiction, that allows intimidation, that allows economic mismanagement, that allows political thuggery. So if the church is able to stand up firm so that every politician that comes in will be treated as an equal worshipper, they take the pew and they enjoy the service. If it is their financial offering, we don't announce the offering of every other Christian. If we start from there, then we protect the pulpit where the truth can be hammered, and the church is called for that. So if you would ask me, yes, we are ready. We just need to wake up and smell the coffee and to work together as an entity to ensure the efficacy that we want to see at the end of the day.
But as you come in, Mary, Proverbs 11:14 says, leaders succeed, or people get derailed because of lack of guidance, and those who succeed because of good counselors.
Yes.
We have seen in this great nation of ours, the moment there is a crisis, the first lot of people to visit State House is the clergy. They come and try to pacify. And then people get angry at the church, and they say, you are sellouts, So what do you say to that?
Well, my intimation is this. The church cannot be put away from politics because it is the conscience of the society. However, people must differentiate the difference between the church guiding the state and some people who are inclined to the church benefiting from their works with the stakeholders. And if you would ask me, I am a minister. I have not been to State House. But if I was asked to go, I will comfortably go because it is the State House of the country of Kenya. However, my take on the same, my view after I have visited the place should not be altered as a result of the same. So I only feel that we have been muted. We have been muted. And allow me to intimate something that the take that one person has, because they are a member of clergy, is not the take of every other member of clergy. Let me give a scenario. The body of Christ is made up of body parts. Every Christian is a body part. It's a part of the same body. When your finger is aching, it is not your entire body that should be blamed for because the finger is aching. In fact, I think we will now work within the preferments of Scripture. That if there is an organ of yourself which will derail you from making it to heaven, chop it off.
And throw it into the fire.
Kindly.
So in this, if you could take that proverbial and then apply it to where we are today,
Yes.
that if you see that over and over again, there is a part of your governance and your social justice that is not working, that you should essentially cut it off and throw it into the fire. What is the representation of cutting it off? By going to the ballot and saying, because when we go to the ballot, you don't vote in someone only. You also vote out someone. So is that what we are saying? If we have seen over and over again that this leopard has spots, it has had the same spots for the last I don't know how long.
Yeah.
The likelihood of it changing its spots next year are slim to none. So is it time for you to say, leopard, spots, thank you. We need a zebra with stripes, kind of thing.
Yes. In fact, we are looking at a total overhaul because we have been recycling politicians over and over again. And the moment we do that, we all know very well what happens and what transpires. It's all about personal interests. So we need now to have new faces, people who have not had any reasons for them to blackmail or be blackmailed. Because again, what happens in this business, and we read the animal farm, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. And I'll give a scenario of what the poor and the rich go through to articulate this matter. When the poor are trying to climb up a rope to move and cross over to the other side, then the rich on the other side are really playing about with the rope to ensure that these people do not cross over. We now need to make our own bridge to ensure that the young, the visionary cross over and take leadership positions. And more so people with integrity, people who believe and fear the Lord. Because a man thinks, and the Bible says that what a man thinks of, then so is he. So if you're able to have a new mindset, that I don't have to be a boss as a politician anyway, because the electorate are the bosses. The moment we discover who we are through civic education, then we will manage to do that. But we need to say enough is enough and eject some folks out.
Mary, are people ready to do that? Because it seems as though, again, Joe talks about, the folks who could actually sway the decision are in the majority.
Sure.
And they're of voting age. I don't know how many people have actually gone and said, okay, let's activate this and take the document that requires you to vote. But then, are they of the realization that you can't expect the folks who have been part of the problem to be part of the solution? The Mr. Fix-It can't be the guy who was Mr. Spoil-It.
Yes, I think as a country we find ourselves in a very kind of critical situation because somebody once said that the leaders we've elected are the reflection of who we are. So, for example, if I was to become the president of the Republic of Kenya today, then people wouldn't expect me, for example, to do anything different from what the current president is doing. We also need to be very careful because there is that element of recycling leaders. For example, today we decide to vote out President Ruto and we elect any of the ones in the opposition of whom I would call the KANU orphans, for lack of a better explanation, then we would removing one problem and putting in another. What quote unquote people would like to call as we are electing a lesser evil. I think for us as a country and for us as young people, we need to be very, very, very careful in terms of whom we elect. We are not yet there, but I believe we are getting there slowly by slowly.
When you say getting there, not aware of the kind of person who needs to come into, or not ready to put heads together to make a decision?
I think as the youths, we are ready, but now you see, we have other classes of voters. We have the adults who are ahead of us, whom, as we speak of today, will still vote based on their tribal lines, based on their personal interest. So I think for us, it is not an issue of an event, but we are getting there. We are getting rid of them pole pole. We remove one after another.
Okay.
Yes.
Sophie Mugurenjehia is here this morning as well and joins us in the situation. Sophie, good morning.
Good morning, Do.
How are you?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
I'm late. I'm never late.
I know. So you don't know why you... Okay, tell us why you're late.
I don't know.
You don't know what happened?
I think my entire body system is reacting to the entire anxiety of the coming of yesterday. Because as a person at the front line, as a human rights defender, before yesterday, like I was anxious the entire 24th. There were all these threats about the goons. There was the entire feeling and the remembrance of the actual day, 2024. There is the feeling of the entire police system on us yesterday, the new machinery, the noise. I think it just does something to you.
It did something to you.
Yeah.
Well, one of the, a therapist of somebody somewhere once said that the first step towards all of this is then being able to have a conversation about it, and then we can see, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing this morning. So we're going to go to the top of our hour in just a minute, but just give us your synopsis first of all, because we're talking about how where we are now. After yesterday, things were there was a commemoration, but things still seem to be the same. Two gentlemen have said that as far as they see it, the needle hasn't quite moved 2 years down the line. What do you think?
We're still seeing the suppression because the government is aware that if we commemorate this day as we should, then it's their admission of their failure. It's them not wanting accountability of the fact that they actually killed more than 200 young people. And we haven't even talked about what they did in Githurai in 2024. And for the police to also go to Githurai and plainclothes police shooting in the air, I wonder what they're doing to that community, because it's the same thing they experienced in 2024. Nothing has changed. As a matter of fact, what we're seeing is the government prioritizing monies towards suppressing dissent. The sort of machinery that was on the street yesterday was appalling. Seeing the normalization of plainclothes policemen, seeing men in plainclothes carrying guns, seeing policemen in balaclavas. It was an entire scary episode. I was telling my friend, it feels like we're in a GTA or in those video games, man, because the sort of things these people have on, the Subarus that were there yesterday were so many. The cars without number plates, and the president just casually being at Bomas and looking at his grandiose projects and telling how there will be more projects using more money coming in. And what we were saying yesterday, not only were we commemorating, but it is a reminder to this government that we do not want them. We were protesting the price of fuel. We were protesting the opulence, the corruption, the finance bill in itself, because life is about to get harder. So we were exercising our duty. The same thing we did in 2024 is what we were doing yesterday, coming out to say no to bad governance. And we want the international community to understand that we are not violent. Yesterday, there were no vandalisms. We actually, despite the selling of fear, it was actually a very peaceful, successful protest. But the guns were there.
You'll tell us
Around
how,
Parliament. They were there.
You'll tell us what that looked like,
Yeah.
and then how that all plays out against what we're talking about, whereby there must be progression. All right, we'll talk. We'll do the news, come back, and we'll continue with this conversation.
The latest news from around the world. 94. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
Kenya, are the young people alone?
We're alone.
Why?
Sadly.
Why
we're
do you say
alone.
that?
But it's not like we did not know we're alone. We've known we're alone for a long time. Because there are certain individuals who feel like when the status quo changes, the stubborn status quo, because it is particularly stubborn to the sense that they would masquerade as advancers of a cause. They're actually the ones who took the notice to the police. Some of us who mostly are at the front line of these things, we did not even know that the notice was being taken to the police. We saw it on the news. So we're like, okay, so you've decided to take the front row this time round. Well, let's see. So come the actual day, we're actually not beginning the protest. We're there, but we're not beginning the protest because we want you to lead. You've already shown that now you're advancing our cause. You are on the right side of history. Come the noise and the weird. Tokeni hapo. The wee. You're holding the hands of the mothers. You're walking with them. You leave them, get into your big cars, and you go. Then you call them again to a safer place to have a press conference. And I don't get it. Like, at the first sight of trouble, you run. We're already in trouble as a nation. We are borrowing. We have to deal with corrupt individuals. We have to deal with rogue police. Change is very hard. It's painful. It needs you to put yourself in an uncomfortable position. But the first time you're faced with an uncomfortable position, you run. But we, the young people, we did not run. We stayed there. We laid the flowers with the mothers at Parliament, where there were horses and dogs and weird-sounding cars. We beat that. We put the flowers. We sang our songs of freedom. We were able to hold the mother's hands in this hard moment. You know, there's a mom there who's never seen her child, Dennis, since 2024. And so we are hiding behind compensation, but she's never seen her child. So the sort of pain and the sort of trauma that was there in that moment was your moment to show us solidarity.
Yeah.
Was your moment to show us that, guys, we understand your pain and we want to restore you by just being there for you. But the first sight you run, and then you call us again for a press conference where it's safer for you. Now we have comrades arrested. We had comrades beaten. Even as women, we were beaten. We had goons unleashed on us. But we had tear gas. But we beat all that, and we were able to commemorate the day. But the clear show is we have to admit that as young people, the 11 million of us currently on the voter register have to come together and advance a cause that is specifically geared towards posterity.
What does that cause look like that's geared towards posterity? Because if I hear you saying in plain terms here, is that those who are currently asking for the mantle of leadership, who were there yesterday, are actually not ready for a change like what Daktari is saying needs to happen. The entire animal needs to change is what he's saying. You can't have remnants of the past trying to forge for a change in the future. Because if the representative was there yesterday showing you a particular thing, does that mean that they're showing you what they will do tomorrow?
Absolutely. And what they will do tomorrow to me looks like this. James Orengo has ever worked with William Ruto before in the same cabinet. These people, Eugene, Kalonzo, Rigathi, they have all, one way or another, been in a position of government where they have had to work with William Ruto. So if at all any of them actually manage to get enough votes to get William Ruto out, William Ruto is a seasoned politician. He is young in the political world. He's not going to go away easy. He will employ Raila's tactics. He will give you a difficult time because he has stolen enough money. He has the resources to give you a difficult time. When he gives you a difficult time, he will call William Ruto to the table, any of those people, to have a conversation that ends sounding like, we're doing this for the country. It's for the bigger cause. It's for the peace of the nation. We cannot afford anarchy, so we have to work together. What does that mean for the young people? You're still left out. So this change looks like all of you, and I like what he has said because it's like he's read my mind. All KANU orphans have to go home. We need a new crop of leadership in place that is advancing a different cause.
Tara, do you see that the slate needs to be wiped clean if the kind of, governance and leadership that is required to deal with these issues, because we're going to go back to that, the core issues, the status quo, these issues that we say are still remnants from what was finally brought out, that when we saw the Gen Z protest, those in an older generation said, actually, yes, this is what we've been trying to say, but now this generation of people are so emboldened that they can say and act what is on our mind. So these are issues that people want to come to the fore, but they didn't really know how to deal with them. Now they've been given an opportunity. They've been given a show, or rather an example of how this can actually be done. So in order to have that done, do you actually then need to wipe the slate clean? Or can you work with some people who now may change their mind and say, actually, yes, we see that this can work? Sophie shaking her head vehemently.
Well, she is doing so because she's in concurrent with all of us that if we need change, then we need to change the arena, we need to change the tactics, we need to change the players of the game. In a football match, we have people who are on the outside of the field, but some of them are not watching, they're not spectating. Some of them are waiting for their turn to get into the field and do exactly what the previous players or their counterparts were doing. So if you would ask me, in a very honest opinion, in the recommendation of Psalms 133 verse 1, it is very pleasant for us as Kenyans now to agree, to come together, regardless of our diversifying factors. And these rogue politicians ride on our differences, on matters ethnicity, on matters political affiliations, on matters so many diversifying factors. If we've just forgot about that and worked together and raised up leaders, then I think, yes, we can do that and we need to do it. And we should be at the forefront of doing the same because we do not have a lot of time to dilly-dally. We need to ensure, first of all, that tuko kadi, because that is the very first initiative. As we pray, let us ensure that those eligible have the voters' cards. And then together, we agree. We just have to agree to put in the right people, not on merit of our friendship or affiliations with and to them, but on merit of service delivery.
Well, Wakili,
Yes.
we find ourselves in a situation whereby we are saying we need change. And change we must have. And the only way to manifest that change is to participate actively in discourse that advance that cause. However, the world over, if you look around, you realize any successful revolution or any long-lasting change that has held and withstood the test of time is the one that was owned by the people. Where the people of any nation you pick, you can go to Cuba, they survived with sanctions for many years because the people agree that this is our fate and we are not going to bow down. Go to the French, go to South Africa, and many other countries across the world, you realize where the people own a revolution, they succeed. There is no regime that has ever won against the people. But today, what I'm hearing you guys say is that we are at some danger of some people masquerading as the leaders of this revolution. And perhaps that could be what is beginning to water down the revolution. 2024 was leaderless, tribeless,
Correct.
It was the most successful movement we've had in this country since the birth of our nation. But since then, in the last 2 years, we have seen people masquerade in different forms and shapes and manners, saying that the Gen Zs, we are going to show you. The Gen Zs, we are going to lead you. The Gen Zs will show up with you, and then, they take off in the first instant of danger and threat. How do we maintain the legitimacy of the revolution, of the movement, of the demand for good governance and progressive leadership and proper economic management, and get rid of these KANU remnants or masquerading leaders who are attempting to compromise the authenticity? Because if we do, I see the danger that we may get to the 55th week from now. We're only 55 weeks away from the ballot. Yes. Be informed. If we don't start changing tact now as a nation, the same people might end up on the ballot.
Can I add something?
Let's hear our Akili. Then
no, I want to ask him so that I hear his mind.
Okay.
Like, did you see the point of them coming out? Like, what was the entire from your own perspective as a young person?
Yeah.
Yes. So, yesterday I was reading a post from Rigathi Gachagua, and he was calling us his sons and daughters. And I took out my ID, and I didn't see any Rigathi name on my ID.
Right.
These are people who want to take advantage of the movement. They know the kind of power that the young people have. I think as a young generation, we need to be very, very careful. Of course, we are saying we are leaderless. We are tribeless. But at the end of the day, we need to have a strategy. We can't work with that thinking that we are leaderless. Because at the end of the day, what would happen is the elections are coming. We want to see many of the young people coming up to take this post. But in the event we keep on saying we are leaderless, we are tribeless, it becomes an issue. Because you see, at the end of the day, when you want to win a game, you must have strategy. And for you to have strategy, you must have team players. So we've already seen there's the Ruto side and there's the Rigathi side. They have already shown us that they are coming for this thing. So why don't we as young people also come up with a group of leaders, with a crop of leaders? Because at the end of the day, if we do not plan ourselves, then we are planning to fail. Yes.
So is it time? I was short of calling you Bishop, but it's fine. Minister. Is it time that now people start scouting for their own candidates, where people will begin to say, in my county, we want the minister to be our candidate, the people's candidate. As a nation, as we go to the ballot, because the buck stops with the president, we begin to agree that we must have a people's candidate, so that this shenanigan of a 2-horse race, 1-horse race, and 3 donkeys, and other donkeys comes to an end. Once and for all, we say, we the people, based on the issues that we want addressed, and we agree is the matters to do with our economy, is the baseline, the foundational element, this is the person we are beginning to endorse as our people's candidate. Should that be the direction?
Yes, it should. Because our failure to have a made-up mind will be a very easy way of ensuring that the enemy has a way of creeping back into power. And this is the strategy. It's the divide and rule. We need to look at the dichotomy of control. Let us know what is within our control and how we would work on the same by raising our very own people. And this comes clearly. If anyone is interested in any position and they qualify for the same and they have the right agenda and we can support them, let's give it a try. Why not? There's a particular portion of scripture where the people of God said, if we stay here, we will die. If we still go, we will die. Let us go and pursue whatever is ahead of us so that we will not be judged harshly by history and be told, you know what, you guys were just watching it as it still went bad. We look at our grandfathers and ask, where were they when other grandfathers of their time were buying a lot of land, amassing a lot of wealth? Where were they? We think they were in the discourse. No, they were relaxing somewhere, waiting for a miracle to happen. We must be the change that we want to see today.
So, Sophie, you look at the voice of dissent. It's being well suppressed, or rather the effort to suppress it are very, they're not giving up. They're even beginning to come after the media houses. But there is no alternative. People must keep having these conversations locally, loudly. so that we build up a momentum and agree that it's nothing personal. I don't think anybody hates William Ruto for the person that he is. People have issues with him, we were saying this earlier, because of the office that he holds. If today he resigns, I don't think tomorrow he'll bother with what he's doing with his life. And that applies to all the governors, MPs, anybody else who is in an elective or a public service position. So the voice of dissent is good because it is reawakening the soul of the country. I think one thing I'm grateful for about this regime, and what thing they have succeeded in doing, is offering free civic education. Now everybody is woke about the Constitution, about our rights, everything that needs to happen. But how do we begin to convert this civic education, this wokeness, these voices that are being branded as voice of dissent into action?
First of all, it is reading the political class and the old guards of our attention, because that is what they feed off from. We give them platforms to lie to us. We give them platforms to manipulate us. Because why exactly were they coming yesterday? You should have just stayed home. You came and you embarrassed yourself and you showed us who you really are. So it would be fast for us to say, hey, wait a minute, what's our worth as the citizens? Who are we in this entire governance system? Who actually has the power? And the sad part is we keep getting distracted as a people, and the people in power assume that they give themselves this power. Because we had gone for a meeting on 24th, yeah. And one of the directors of the police force was there, and she said something very concerning, that in the next general electioneering period, because we were having a conversation around violence, sexual-based violence on women around the electioneering period, and she said, as the police, we're taking serious measures. So during this election period, you will be in a crowd, you're 10 people, you're having a discussion, but 1 or 2 of you are policemen. And I asked myself, what do you mean? So you have infiltrated the citizenry so much that amongst us, we don't even know who are police and who are not. It is important to note the NIS does not have a database of who works for them. The NIS does not even have an oversight board on who actually oversights the NIS. So what we are seeing now, a whole president tweeting about a media house, because a media house keeps showing the public that, hey, we're being played. We're pawns in a chess game. Hey, wake up. You're sleeping too much. They're playing with your minds. And he doesn't want that. Yesterday, media people were being tear gassed. They were being bitten. One was seen actually being stepped on their private parts by a policeman. What are they trying to show? That the fourth estate, the one that actually is the fourth in the governance system and deserves its freedom, guaranteed by the Constitution, is actually being suppressed. You're coming for social media, you're coming for traditional media. Who are we left with? So my question is, what does this government presume of the citizenry? Do they think we are fools? Do they think we did not go to school? Do they think we cannot see how they're manipulating the Constitution using supplementary budgets and use of Article 223 to rob us using supplementary budgets? They don't think we are seeing how they're taxing, like as a company, if you have money in your account, they're calling it unclaimed profits. Apparently, if you do not give it out as dividends, they're calling it unclaimed profits. Do you know what they're going to do using that? If you're an individual, you're interested in a political campaign, or you're interested in finding a political coalition, they will come for your money and tax it, or actually come and tell you that you have a tax case, because this has been passed, that once you're caught with, you're accused of having a tax case, they will hold your money until the case is closed. This government does not do anything by mistake. They're always 2 steps ahead of us. When did they buy these cars that were producing the weird noises. But there was
You've not seen
the
them before,
cyber
so-
security on date 23. There was the communication from Parliament that they have approved a cyber security center to be
Monitored.
built in Kenya. And last month we saw Murkomen and DIG Lagat in New York being taught how the Americans are doing surveillance. But I'm asking myself, you want to surveil us like a first world country, but you do not want to give us a police system similar to that of the first world countries. The police in those first world countries work with body cams. They never close their faces. They're never police in plain clothes. The police have badges with their names on them. So you want to surveil us like a first world country, but you do not want to give us the protection and the observance of the rule of law like a first world country. We are breeding anarchy. What happens when the citizens actually decide that enough is enough?
And it hasn't gotten to that point.
Romania is
just
an
yet.
example of when their government decided that, hey, this guy, Kauczewski, it's enough, because what Kauczewski was doing is he was pleasing IMF by overtaxing the people. He had such a huge ballooning public debt. And when he got the money, he chose to build a grandiose project. He built them such a big parliament. It's actually the biggest in the entire world. Using that money, the cost of living went so high. You know, it was so bad. There was a reduction of the amount of meat the economy could produce because people were not consuming meat. They were not consuming bread because you have to cut down on the cost, on how much you're using to meet your basic needs. It took 9 days. They overthrew the government. The military supported the people. The police supported the people. The guy was given a conviction in 1 day and he was executed in public. What does William Ruto assume the citizens are going to do when they actually decide that enough is enough? We can see through exactly what you're doing, and now we're not going to take it anymore.
But
What
it would
makes
appear
him
as
think we
though-
will wait the 55 weeks?
It appears, though, that from what you're saying then, Sophie, that Kenyans have not decided enough is enough.
We have not.
So then that means you're still okay with it, kind of.
We are participators in a game of chess. The United Alternative Opposition wants to take advantage of the fact that we are confused, that our poverty is weaponized so bad that we cannot participate in political processes, in our civic duty. But one day, you see the people who are saying at the protests spoil their businesses. Have they read the finance bill and the budget proposals for the next financial year? Your businesses are going to be spoiled. You will close down. You will not be able to keep the livelihoods that you have had. You know, I hate the fact, and I will finish by saying this, that William Ruto assumes we do not know a life before him.
Well, and I think that's a good note to take it on a different note. What will be our livelihood? How will our lives look like post William Ruto? Because the must-go call can legitimately be actualized on the 10th of August.
The ballot, yes.
We can decide not to wait before then, but what kind of a country are we going to create, you know? So there are changes we want to manifest, and for them to outlive us so that the generations that will come after us benefit like the way we benefit from the sacrifices that were offered or made by the freedom fighters during the first liberation and also the second liberation. So that's why we are here, you know, this media freedom. We can have a discourse, a conversation, agree and disagree at the same time. They paid their price. So right now, people said, I think from around last year, that the revolution will be actualized through the ballot. Because remember, after the June 2024, people were saying, no, this is an attempted coup. Again, people masquerading to be leaders. They were perceived to be the one who wanted to take over the government through the back door. And then, no, actually the Gen Zs were too loud. They said, no, we wanted the president and the deputy to be Kufa Dereva, Kufa Makanga. The impeachment should not have been for one person, should have been for both. But then the one who was successfully impeached comes out and starts saying, I'm the leader of you people. I'll show you how to clean. I'm the better option. And there is a divergent opinion out there, divergent opinions about that. My question is, Ruto goes on 10th of August. On 11th of August, we still be having the odious deaths we will still be having all the crisis that is existing. So if we don't have a plan and a strategy on how to reclaim our nation and rebuild the country, the suffering will continue.
Yeah.
It only take a very, it will even get worse. So what should be our solution? We know the problem. We understand it. I mean, everybody can explain it in their own version. And it's clear to everybody. So what should be our strategic approaches towards our defined solution? And what is that solution? What is that country that we want to see, to give birth to on the ballot on the 8th of August next year?
Yes, I think I would want to go first. I think as we look for leaders, we need to look for people who would want the institutions that are established under the constitutions to work independently. For example, when you look at the constitution, it says that the National Police Service shall be an independent institution. But we don't see that. And the reason as to why we don't see that independence is because of the people at the executive level. We are also told that the Independent Policing and Oversight Authority, IPOA, should be independent because of even the word independent is there. But do we see that? We haven't seen that. Since 2024, when we lost over 60 of our colleagues, yes, only 2 cases have made it to court. None of the other cases have made it to court. We are being told that files were forwarded to the ODPP. Again, another independent institution, but no action has been taken. So apart from the case of Rex Masai, the inquest that is ongoing, none, and I repeat, none of the police officers has been arrested, none has been presented before a court of law. So I think as a country, we need to look at the person that we want to elect, because the goodwill must come from the executive, as we have learned so far. So we need a person who has shown us that he's able to respect the rule of law. For example, I sympathize with people who say that the former interior minister, with a lot of and tremendous respect to him, is a good option as we move forward as a president. And remember when he was the minister for interior, we lost so many people. Between 2017 and 2022, we lost so many people. He's therefore not an alternative. So we need to look at our people in terms of who are they, in terms of rule of law, what is their history, what are they willing to do in terms of this independent institution. That way we'll be able to move our way forward.
Right.
Let's take a break on that just really quickly, if you'd like to hold on to that, Dr. Because then we can come back and say, okay, well, it's looking like it's shaping up something in our minds. But unfortunately, we're at the place whereby we say there's confusion, there's disuniformity, and at the same time, not really sure then who will carry the mantle. Are there enough people who are presenting themselves as an alternative? That's another thing. And we're looking to combine that with your action, or rather with your answer when we come back from this. It's 23 minutes to 10 o'clock. Our youth perspective conversation continues in just a bit. And then we'll be asking, so who's putting themselves up? I know Sophie is. Who else is? We'll come back and talk in a bit.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
But he put it across very well that there were consequences of the same. So it is very good to be honest with ourselves that we are in the mess we are in as a nation because first off, our personal lives, our personal takes are wanting. And yes, we have people who level up to ensuring that they will stand or they will vie for these positions, and we will support them. However, if we ourselves do not address our personalities, if we ourselves do not address our ways of handling things at our own local levels, in my dialect, we have a philosophical and proverbial saying that says, Gemi shumaga na mushie, that goodness comes from home. So if I do not begin at home, I should not expect a good vibe wherever I go to work, wherever I interact with people. And if we borrow wisdom from philosophy, Stoicism is something we would really embrace because it focuses on the well-being of a person to ensure that they cultivate inner resilience and moral excellence. And there are the virtues that are there. Of course, virtue is the only true good in Stoicism. And it works on 4 cardinals: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. If we ourselves are able to resolve the issues within ourselves, God, in his own majesty, just as Micah 6:8 recommends, that God has shown us our good on what is good. And what does he require of us? To act just, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before the Lord. If we do that, then he will give us revelations. This is the person, and we will now, having prepared for the same, move into the future. Because yes, Kenya is not going to ruins. Kenya must rise for the general good and for the glorification of the word of God.
How do you identify who the right person is? And if what you're saying then is the process through towards identification for the right person, there are people who, like I said, the statement has been over the last years, drain the swamp. Get rid of these. You cannot. The only way you can do that is at the vote, is at the ballot. But in the process of removing somebody, you have to put someone in. And I often say that if you go for a buffet lunch, guess what? You will serve what is on the buffet.
Sure.
Unless if you want where you can pick and choose, you can't be there. So what you put up for selection, I'm sorry, but that is what you're going to have to choose from. So what process do you get to say that let everything that is possible to be on the offering be on the offering if people don't put themselves up for leadership?
Allow me to build onto what I have intimated. In the recommendations of Psalm 119 verse 5, the word of God says, your lamp is a light unto my is a lamp for my feet and a light unto my path. Life is spiritual, very spiritual. And the commencement of everything is how we connect with the higher authority, which is the Spirit. And we have two spirits. We have the Holy Spirit and we have the evil spirit. Those of us that are Christians and inclined to the faith that comes from and through Jesus Christ, then if we ourselves work on our spirituality, God gives revelations. And I want to tell you this without fear of doubt or contradiction, that whatever is revealed of God does not have confusion. The spirit of confusion does not come from God. It comes from the devil. If I am living well with my spouse, if I am doing justice to the people who are under me, the people who are looking up to me, through the guidance of the word, I will not miss the mark. Secondly, the word does not recommend us to be delusional. So we need to be very critical at this point. How will we do that? Very simple. After having revelations, we will now focus on looking at the people that present themselves. And we should also propose to the people that we feel are equally capable of holding these positions to take up the same roles. Because God brings his call through various aspects, through visions, through dreams, and also more so through his people. So we should be prophets in our own capacities by telling these people, you know what? We see you are capable of this. We want to have you vie for this position. And we should support them.
Insist that they go. Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm struggling, Minister. I'm struggling. Because the outgoing president, William Ruto, came in through the church. His major campaign platform was the church. And the clergy, and this is a collective, told us the voice of God, I don't know the voice of the people, has spoken. And this is the man that God has chosen for the nation. So did they miscommunicate with the God? Because when I look at the servitude of this character, the person, the president, it is very wanting. It is close to evil doings, you know? Unlike what the prophecy then ought to have revealed to us. So that is my struggle. And I'm asking this because moving forward, I'm okay with us identifying problems. But if we stick there, then we still become part of the problem. So we must also start realizing attempts to develop solutions. Today, whoever is campaigning, like Sophie here, for an elective position, the church expects her or them, aspirants, to show up. Come with money. You become now a guest of honor. I'm sure, and all the aspirants will agree. You go out and ask them. They are receiving invites to churches every Sunday from today until the day they don't make it through the nominations or until the day they get voted on August of next year. And what does the church want? Money. We have more churches today in this country and mosques There is no exemption of religion. But we have more places of worship today, I think, than clubs and wines and spirits and restaurants. But if you look at the moral decadence of those who are in power and they frequent churches and they are called honorable members and they appear in those places of worship, that's my struggle, Minister. And the question is not specifically to you, it is to all of us. Like, how do we reconcile, if we are all struggling with that reality, reconciling these fallacies? How do we sanitize and clean that up so that going forward, religion sticks to its place? If we must have it, that's another conversation to continue having. And then politics, which is in the industry of us organizing our collective society and managing our dynamics, including economics and everything else, also has its place. And then we have the right people assuming the right positions. So at some point we can say, if you have chosen to be in the religion field, stick to that. But when you come to politics, do not infiltrate now the religious values into politics, because that is what corrupts. Wakili.
Generations from generation,
Right.
have not been able to separate religion from politics. It's very much impossible to separate leadership and religion. And this is why, because Christians go to church because they want hope. There is hope in the church. When you go to church and you're told by your pastor and by your minister that this is what the word of the Lord says, and you listen to it and you introspect it, you become quote-unquote indoctrinated, yes? And my perception would be we need to pray as a country on the type of leadership that we want. Because remember, at the end of the day, as I've said, you cannot separate religion from leadership. It's very much impossible. So we need to pray.
We need to
in
pray.
terms of the
Again, we need to fall
leadership that
back
we
on
want.
the same religion and trying to walk out.
Without necessarily
Yeah.
listening to the voices of our pastors or
Yeah.
anything. We need to pray as a person. And you say that the Lord has told me, and rather the Lord has intimated to me
Yes.
to vote for Sophie.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
What
now,
happened?
Sophie,
Okay, Sophie.
as you
So what happened? Okay, I get that.
Yes.
But what happens to this thing where we are saying, can you look at somebody's track record? Because for me, if you have someone who can actually do a job right, it doesn't matter if they are 25 years old or 75. If they can do the job right, if they are somebody whose actions are laced with integrity, that they're able to take authority and deal with certain matters and say we're going to get the job done, it shouldn't matter. So what happened to looking at somebody's track record? Because if you're not looking, if somebody, everybody has a track record. Even if somebody started doing something today, by 4 o'clock, there's a track record of how they handled those things from the morning until 4 o'clock.